My pronunciation is so bad. Are you saying this to yourself all the time? If you would like to fix your pronunciation forever, keep watching. Stay to the very end if you want to learn and use this very special technique. Today, we're diving into a topic that many of you have been asking about: solving bad English pronunciation. First, I'm going to share a bit of background of how I discovered this amazing method to eliminate your bad pronunciation. Then, I'll explore the 3 biggest factors that affect how we sound when speaking English. Finally, I'll share a simple 3-step method to fix your most common pronunciation mistake. So let's get started. When I started teaching English over 20 years ago, a lot of my students asked the same question: how can I improve my pronunciation? So I developed a course called Power Pronunciation. In 8 sessions of 2 hours each, I was able to correct 80 to 90% of their pronunciation mistakes. The class size was limited to 20 students, and I gave each student personal training and coaching. To do this properly, I also used my active listening skills. As you know from my other videos, I teach students to learn active listening to improve their English speaking. I practice what I preach. I noticed 2 things about my students. Many of them thought their pronunciation was terrible, but that wasn't true. We tend to make the same mistake over and over, rather than lots of different mistakes. This means our pronunciation isn't as bad as we think. Isn't that great news? So, when I listened more closely to my students, I did notice they didn't make many mistakes. They just made one mistake many times. So then I developed a technique to find that one mistake and then correct it. And I've used this technique to help students quickly improve their pronunciation. And this can help you too. Keep watching and I'll share this special technique later in the video. Okay, so you need to get some background as to why we have bad pronunciation in the first place. Let's look at the 3 main factors that influence our English pronunciation. First, your native language, mouth and tongue placement, and stress and intonation. Factor 1, your native language. The first big factor is your native language. The sounds and patterns of your first language have a huge impact on how you pronounce English words. This is why people from different countries often have distinct accents when speaking English. For example, if your native language doesn't have the sound, th, you might find it tricky to pronounce words like think or 3. You might say sink instead of think, or tree instead of 3. And this is totally normal. Your brain and mouth are used to making certain sounds, and it takes time to learn new ones. In fact, you have to unlearn the old ones. Another example is the difference between L and R sounds for some Asian language speakers. In many Asian languages, these sounds are not distinct, so the words like light and right might sound the same when spoken by a native speaker of these languages. Every language has different sounds, or as the linguists call them, phonemes. They sometimes have more phonemes than your native language. Some phonemes are different than the phonemes in your native language, so you're not used to hearing them. And How you hear a language affects how you speak the language. I'm learning to speak Chinese now, and I discovered this about the differences in phonemes between these two languages. English has approximately 44 phonemes, including 20 vowel phonemes and 24 consonant phonemes. In contrast, Mandarin comprises about 21 consonant phonemes and 5 vowel phonemes. But it has a tone system, and that adds a challenge to the language, with 4 main tones and 1 neutral tone. By understanding how your native language affects your English pronunciation is the first step in improving your English pronunciation. Once you know which sounds are challenging for you, you can focus on practicing them more. Factor number 2, mouth and tongue placement. The second major factor is mouth and tongue placement. English uses a wide range of sounds that requires specific positions of your lips, tongue, and jaw. Getting these positions right is the key to clear pronunciation. Let's take the vowel sounds in ship and sheep as an example. To say ship properly, your mouth should be more relaxed and slightly open. Ship. For sheep, you need to stretch your lips a bit, almost like you're smiling. Sheep. It's a small difference, but it changes the whole word. Consonants can be tricky too. Think about the difference between V and W. For V, your bottom lip touches your teeth slightly. But for W, your lips form a small, round shape. Paying attention to these details can really improve your pronunciation. One fun way to practice is to use a mirror. Watch your mouth as you say different words. You'll start to notice how your lips, tongue, and jaw move for each sound. This awareness can help you make the right shapes more easily. When you listen to native speakers, watch the shape of their mouth and their lips to correct your own pronunciation, and practice that in front of a mirror. Factor number 3, stress and intonation. The third big factor is stress and intonation. This is all about the rhythm and melody of English. It's not just about saying each word correctly, but it's also about how you say them together in a sentence. In English, we stress certain syllables in words and certain words in sentences. For example, in the word photograph, the stress is on the first syllable, photograph. But in photographer, it shifts to photographer. The TOG is stressed. Getting this right can make a big difference in how natural your English sounds. Intonation is about the rise and fall of your voice. It can change the meaning of what you're saying. For instance, saying really with a rising tone at the end shows surprise or disbelief. Saying it with a falling tone might sound that you disagree or understand. Really? Learning to use stress and intonation correctly can be challenging, but it's what gives English its distinctive sound. Listening to native speakers and trying to copy their rhythm can be really helpful. Now that we've covered the 3 main factors, let's talk about how to improve your pronunciation. Remember what I said earlier about how we usually make the same mistake over and over. So, if we can fix that one big issue, our overall pronunciation will get much better. So, here's what you've been waiting for. A simple 3-step method to cure your biggest pronunciation mistake. Step number 1, Make a recording. First, make a recording of yourself speaking for 3 to 4 minutes. The key here is to use your natural conversational voice. Don't read from a script or try to sound perfect. Just talk about your day, your hobbies, or anything that comes to your mind. This step is very important because it lets you hear how you really sound when you're not focusing on your pronunciation. It's like catching yourself just doing a simple thing. Step number 2, listen and identify. Next, listen to your recording. You can do this alone or with a friend who speaks English well. As you listen, you'll probably notice that you make the same mistake many times. This is your biggest pronunciation issue. Maybe you're having trouble with a specific sound like th or r, r, or perhaps you're stressing words in the wrong places. Whatever it is, this step helps you become aware of your most common error. Don't worry if you have more than one mistake. Just focus on the one that appears most often or the one that affects your clarity the most. Make the correction for this one mistake and come back later to do other mistakes. Unlearning is more difficult than learning, so focus on correcting one mistake at a time. Step number 3, practice and be mindful. The final step is to practice saying the problematic sound or word correctly. Have a friend listen to you saying it right. This proves you can say it right. You can do it. Then it's all about retraining your mouth to make the right movements. So, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, be very aware of when you're about to make that sound or word in your everyday conversations. When you notice it coming up, pause for a moment. Then say it slowly and carefully using the correct pronunciation. This might feel a bit awkward at first, and that's okay. You're retraining your brain and your mouth. With time and practice, the correct pronunciation will become very natural. Remember, consistency is key. Keep practicing every day, and you'll see improvement before you know it. So let's recap what we've learned today. Your pronunciation isn't as bad as you think. You are making the same mistake repeatedly rather than lots of different mistakes. The 3 major factors affecting English pronunciation are your native language, mouth and tongue placement, stress and intonation. To improve your biggest pronunciation mistake, record yourself speaking naturally. Listen to identify your most common error. Practice the correct pronunciation and be mindful when speaking. Improving your pronunciation takes time and effort, but it's totally worth it. Clear pronunciation helps you have effective conversations, and you'll feel more confident when speaking English. Before we wrap up, here's a few bonus tips. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. When you were a child and were learning to walk, you didn't do it perfectly on the first try. You tried, fell down, got up, and tried again. Every error is a chance to learn and improve. Native speakers will appreciate your effort to communicate, even if your pronunciation isn't perfect. One more way to improve your pronunciation is to use what's called the shadowing technique. There is a video on this channel that shows you how to do it correctly. And there are also some practice exercises as well. So have a look for them. That's all for today, folks. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more conversation tips. I know if you use this technique, you can easily fix your pronunciation forever. Leave a comment below after you have tried this technique and share your results. And remember, practice makes perfect. Keep working on your pronunciation and you'll sound more natural in no time. Also, do you have any pronunciation tips that have worked for you? Share them in the comments below as well. And if you have any questions, ask in the comments below. We're all here to learn together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. It's Herbert Lee, waiting to hear how you fixed your pronunciation forever.